Hello deep value investors. Thank you for joining me. So in today's video, I want to talk about why you should not invest for dividends and why Warren doesn't. But before we get started, I'd ask you to please subscribe to get my next video installment so you can follow this value investing journey. So let's get started. Whenever I'm in doubt about investing, I always seek out mentors, and one of the biggest mentors in the value investing world is Charlie Munger. And Charlie Munger talks about having a multidisciplinary approach to investing, building mental models, going outside of core business or core finance to look at other models and appropriate them here in investing. So this is a quote from Max Planck that Charlie often quotes. And the quote from Max Planck is, "A scientific truth does not triumph by convincing its opponents and making them see the light, but rather because opponents eventually die and a new generation grows up that is familiar with it." In essence, what this quote is trying to say is what Charlie says, that the human brain is a lot like an egg, and that the egg in the embryo has a shut-off mechanism. And when one sperm gets in, it shuts down so that other sperms cannot get in. And that the human mind has a tendency towards the same sort of mechanism. When a person has an idea, I believe that investors are particularly bad at this. When an investor gets an idea in their mind, it's really difficult to dislodge that idea. So my hope is that after watching this video, you may at least somewhat adapt the concept that investing for dividends is not the correct approach. So here's a photo of a famous economist. If you want to pause the video, have a guess. So this is Maynard Keynes, the British economist. And the reason why I bring him up, I'm not an economist per se, but the reason I bring him up is because in this year's annual letter from Berkshire Hathaway, Buffett puts in a quote that Maynard Keynes put as one of the reviewers in a book called Common Stocks as Long-Term Investments by Edgar Smith. So the quote that Keynes put in was that it's about the power of retained earnings, that the well-managed or a strong business that does not distribute to shareholders its whole earnings and in fact retains those earnings, allows them to compound forward over a period of years. And the value of the asset or the business is by being able to compound those retained earnings, which are quite apart from the dividends that get paid out. So to help myself explain this to you and to help you visualize it, I've put in a graph. And in this graph, at the bottom left, it starts at $10,000, and that is compounded over time. Now, in the orange, the line below, I've done a hypothetical. It's not, no one is ever going to be able to compound for very long periods of time at 20% apart from, a few 10 or 20 individuals in the world. But just for the sake of conversation, let's say that you're able to compound consistently for 10 years, 20% as an investor. And in the bottom line, after the first year, so after you compound that 20%, you take it out as a dividend and you still keep it as cash. So in the bottom line, you're no longer growing that dividend. That dividend is still cashing up on the side, but you're no longer allowing the asset or the portfolio to compound it forward. And the same compound rate, everything is the same. But the second one, you're just keeping that dividend or that earning power in the portfolio. So you're not getting a dividend, or the business is not getting a dividend, and you're just compounding that forward. So nothing is happening different. It's the same individual, it's the same type of class of investment, it's a stock investment, but one the dividend is just kept on the side, and the other one is allowed to roll forward. Now, as an investor, let's say hypothetically you have an investment in IBM, for instance. IBM pays a dividend. Well, it depends on when we watch this video. At this moment in time, it pays a dividend. I don't know if it's going to pay a dividend in 2-3 years, but for now, it pays a dividend. Now, in the event that you get that dividend out of IBM, you're going to redeploy it into another business or back into IBM. Now, if you're going to just redeploy it back into IBM, that's a really ineffective tax distribution. That's really, really awful, because you're getting double taxation, once at the company level on the dividend, and then as the investor you get the tax as well. So, but hypothetically, you get a dividend out, and you're going to do something in this dividend. So unless your idea is, okay, I need to I don't want to invest in dividend, I'm just going to basically get the dividend, I'm just going to keep it to buy groceries, for example, then maybe that capital should not really be locked up to a poor performing business such as hypothetically IBM. I've used IBM as an example because A, I know it quite well, and B, in this example, for approximately 8 years now, IBM trades at 8-year low. So even with the dividends put back in to IBM stock, the shareholder is still holding a loss. Now, this is obviously a skewed example, but it goes to show that being a dividend holder and just saying to yourself, okay, I want to be invested in a company that pays me a dividend because I believe that's a safety net. That is not a safety net. You're much better positioning yourselves into a business that is actually a good quality business. So in the example of IBM, so IBM is, in my opinion, it's not a very strong business, because the way that I personally define a strong business is a business that is able to grow the amount of free cash flow that it makes over time. So it doesn't necessarily need to grow the free cash flow up this year and then next year and the next year higher. It just needs to trend over time higher. So this is a reasonable investment. It would be one that the free cash flow trends higher. But actually, I believe that this is not very much discussed, but this graph is actually erroneous, because what's the likelihood that you as the investor are going to lump down $10,000 at year 1 or year 0 and not do anything else? The trick, the secret to really using compounding in your favor is to, this is what I personally do, is at the start of every month, whether the market is high or low, I put a little bit of our savings towards investing. So it's totally agnostic. You might say, okay, I don't have, let's say, a spare, like, I don't know, X amount per month to put, but you have, let's say, I don't know, like $100 or whatever. Just it's the mechanism. What is important here is that you're not really thinking about, should I invest? The market is high, the market is low. It's being totally agnostic and say, I'm just trying to buy into my portfolio. This is what I do, and I think that this works terrifically well. You're just trying to be agnostic. So in my example, I just split, let's say, that cash infusion into 3 or 4 stocks proportionally. So I just split, let's say, in this example, let's say $1,000 into 4, and I go just into my portfolio and just buy into 4 positions. So because the positions that I have in my portfolio, if I'm not willing to at any point in time to be adding to it, then I should not, if I can't see a reason to be investing in that stock, then there's no reason for someone else to invest. Why would someone else be a bigger fool? I'm not hoping that someone else is a bigger fool. I need to believe that the business is undervalued to hold it. So in this example, where at the start of each month I just deploy the savings, you can also do this. I believe that having just this timing, rather than trying to time the market, or the market is high, today is a good day, or market is low, today is a bad day, rather than trying to time the market, by having time in the market allows you to compound returns going forward. So I hope you found that useful, and as always, please subscribe so you can get my next video installment. Bye.